My college recently sent me an email with this attachment folder, which is full of forms I have to sign and interesting information. So let's go through it, at least the bits I can share anyway. So in this main folder, we can see, once we click on it, that there are 3 folders inside. Essential forms, essential information, and other information. Let's get other information out of the way first, because it's just one thing, which is this nice little leaflet from Blackwell's bookshop. That's the bookshop right there in Oxford, which actually I think shares a side with Trinity College. Like on the other side of the wall is the bookshop, which is really cool. And they just wrote a nice little message and kind of, I guess, advertising themselves. But nice to get from them. They talk about some books and what they are. But that's all there is from the other information, so we can get that one straight out of the way. Now let's go on to the real meat of the folders, the forms I have to sign and the other stuff that my college is sending me directly. Within essential forms, let's see what we have. We have a few documents here, let's go through them, but let's start with this one, the Trinity College new student form. This is what we would expect it to be, a new student form. So you have to sign this and send it off saying that you do in fact want to accept the course. So here we go. I accept the offer to read for the degree of Classics at Trinity College starting in 2021, and that you're going to abide by all the rules and regulations. There's just one page to this. It says you've got to send it off, I guess, to this email address here, attached with a passport photo, which I think is linked to the next thing that we'll look at right now. I think it's this, the University Card Form 2021-22. And I think it goes here, this picture that I have to put on, and is going to be part of my Oxford card that I have to use to get places, tap in places. What do I have to put? My names, date of birth, college and course, and I've ticked Michaelmas, which is the first term. But for this image, which here it says you should staple firmly, that's passport sized, I think that might be the same thing as the other photo. They can just digitally get that and do my card for me. Let's look at the student college contract next. What this basically is just signing off that I've read all of these things and that I'm okay with them. And of course, the college handbook is a hyperlink, and that's definitely the biggest one. We'll look at that in a second. It's 90 pages long, and actually, it's not just rules and regulations, it's got some really interesting stuff in there as well. So stay tuned for that. This next one's interesting. I'm not sure if every college does it. The electrical registration form. What I have to do is send in a form to my college of every electrical appliance that I have to have in my room. To be honest, I'm not sure I'm expecting to use any at all, which I guess is fine. But yeah, a bit of a weird one maybe. I wasn't necessarily expecting this one. I'm not really sure what they're looking for here. Maybe stuff like electrical shaving kits, blenders, maybe an Xbox or PlayStation, something like that. So I would put my electrical stuff here, and the serial number and the wattage, and I guess all of this is for the college to make sure that it's all safe on this right hand side. And finally, we have the Summertown Health Centre welcome letter. It says they're in charge of all the healthcare whilst I'm in Oxford, and I'm not sure if that's just a Trinity thing or the whole of Oxford University, but it looks like they'll be my GP and stuff like that. What it tells me to do is sign up as a patient there, and then when I come home during the year back to where I normally live, I'll sign up as a temporary patient. So basically, I'm moving my GP surgery. So that actually does look like an important form to do. Hopefully, of course, no one's ill, but if you need anything, really good to obviously have it right there in Oxford, because otherwise I hear it can be difficult if you haven't moved your GP and you're now in your university town and you need something done or something. It can be quite hard. So there we go. That's all there is for the essential forms. Now the essential information, of course, is going to be a bit more interesting, because the information stuff, not just forms you have to go through the admin for. And when you click on essential information, you're greeted by 4 new folders. Let's move back to front for this one and look at the information from the JCR. The JCR stands for Junior Common Room, and to me, so far, what it basically sounds like is a committee of students who are in charge of your welfare, the social stuff at your college. So there's a common room, Junior Common Room, and there's a Junior Common Room committee that look after all this kind of stuff. And if we click on the Freshers Guide, this to me, I've had a quick look so far, definitely sounds like the most interesting document. So Freshers Guide, so not just for Freshers Week, which is your first week of being a first year, but you're a fresher for the whole first year, so it's a guide just about everything. It starts with Freshers Week and what to expect and stuff like that. Behind we can see a lovely picture of Trinity College. But this is 18 pages long, and we can see there's loads of good stuff. It gives some food recommendations, cooking recommendations, activity recommendations, and even a packing list. I won't show too much right now. First of all, because a lot of it are people's photos and names for the different positions they have, which obviously is not fair for me to share. But number 2, if this is popular enough, maybe I can spend a whole separate video going through all of this cool stuff, including the list of what to bring. So if that is popular, please do let me know. I answer every comment. And also, if you want to see more videos like this, subscribe and stick around. But there we go, that's the Freshers Guide, which is the only thing in this 4th folder. The 3rd and 2nd folders are pretty self-explanatory. The 3rd one's for bursaries and finance. It gives a list of different scholarships and bursaries and how to apply for them. Those are kind of more forms, so I'm not sure they're the most interesting to look at. And then again, in the second folder, medical and welfare, there are lots of forms, but actually this one, the Trinity Accessibility Guide, I did want to have a look at. This is of course a very useful form for those who might have accessibility issues, and one of the parts of the document is listing every part of the college and exactly how accessible it is, how to get to places. I personally don't have any accessibility issues, but I found it really interesting to read anyway, because it just gave a bit of a description of how the college is laid out, and so I can get a bit of a sense, as someone who hasn't really been round the college, of exactly how it's all laid out. For example here, there are 3 entrances to Trinity, which I didn't necessarily know. This is the main entrance, Trinity Lodge, and then there are 2 others, Dolphin Yard and Backgate. So that's something I didn't know before, and I thought this was a nice document because also everyone can probably use it just to get a bit more of a sense of how the college is. And this carries on afterwards. We have the locations. There's a whole separate guide for the accommodation, which was also interesting because you can read what's said about your room, and so you can tell if it's going to be a first floor or a ground floor, which block it's in, stuff like that. Just quite interesting. But then it goes on to talk about the library and other places around the college. And again, really obviously useful for an accessibility point of view, but a nice general read anyway, just to get a sense of what's where. So that's the accessibility guide. And let's go back now into the top folder, which is the college information folder, including the college handbook, which is 90 pages long. Let's go back to front again, finishing on this handbook, looking at some of the highlights. What to bring to Trinity. It's another bit of a packing list. Some things they tell you to bring, which is pretty generic, but nice to get a sense. Bring some clothes, bring some toiletries, bring some study materials. But it's also interesting to look at what they already supply, a list of things not to bring. I'll make sure not to bring my piano. But of course, in all seriousness, interesting again, just to see what kind of stuff they have around the college and what kind of stuff they said don't bring at all. For example, candles, or any of our electrical appliances, which I guess they provide for us. Okay, fine. So then we have some website links, which is literally just a 1-page Word document full of links, and a TV license information, which basically says you're not allowed to TV, or you have to sort it out yourself if you're getting a TV and a TV license. This is the second most interesting document, in my opinion, after the college handbook. And this is really nice. Again, 4 pages long, 2,000 words, so quite lengthy, just gives a bit of an information, summary, guide to everything. For example, the forms of teaching, which is a bit complicated because it does seem to work differently at Oxford and Cambridge as to other unis. So for those who might not be 100% sure, it goes through tutorials, which are these kind of mini 2 to 3 student teaching sessions, and exactly how they all work. But again, this is quite an interesting document, so maybe I'll look at this in a separate video where I have a bit more time to go into it in a bit more detail. They love their electrical regulations, so another form on that, and then directions to Trinity College, which just tells you how to get there from all the roads and stuff like that. We can have a quick look at that. Get there on the A34 by car, or the A40, and then it gives a bit about by train, or even by plane. And finally, onto the document that I'd be most excited to share, this college handbook, which I've hyped up a lot. But look, it's a PDF now, so you know, we're really getting serious, and it is 88 pages long. And so long, obviously, it's got a whole contents page where we can see introductions from people, academic stuff, small bit of well-being, and then some stuff about everything else. I mean, this really does go into detail about everything you ever need. Starts with an introduction of when Trinity was founded, just goes all the way through, and it's a mixture of information and also a few more rules. For example, this bit here, it talks and gives some information about the academic year, how it's split into 3 full terms, but then it brings the rules back in and says you're required to come to college at this point, and you're not allowed to leave college before the end of 8th week, which is the end of the term, which does sound a bit ominous, but of course for all good reason. Of course there are exceptions, as it then goes into. But there we go, that's the document. The 3 folders, all the mini folders inside, and everything in all of them. Hopefully that's an interesting rundown of all the things. And again, if this video is popular enough, I'll definitely make another video of looking at the more interesting documents in more detail. If you did enjoy, please subscribe, but apart from that, I'll see you in the next one.